Hello again, welcome back to Asgard, and welcome to episode 6 of our IC2 Classic Mod Spotlight series. Now today we're going to be talking about a bit of advanced machines, miscellaneous machines. Of course, last episode we covered all of the basic machines and did this whole section here. So today we're going to start off by talking about a few additional machines that actually, you're going to use for progression purposes in the form of creating materials. Now, the three of these are mainly gauged for in-game type stuff. Now, I will say one of them does have some early game uses, but all three of the first machines that we're going to cover kind of lead in towards the in-game aspect, the plasma cells, UU matter, stuff like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, first up, we have the rare earth extractor. Basically, if you take a look in this, you can see, if you click right here on the left side of the progress, on the far left, you can see recipes. Now, in here, you'll see that it's a little bit different of a layout, right? If you look inside the rare earth extractor, basically you have a battery slot, you have an input, and you have an output. Then, of course, you have your progress bar. Then you have this up here. Okay, now this is secondary progress. So anyways, if we look in here at the recipes, you'll notice that everything has a point value. For example, cobblestone, granite, diorite, andesite all have 3.12 value, and it says needed 320. Netherrack has a 7.81 value and needed 128. Mycelium is a 15.25 value and needed 65. And then clay, 20.84, need 47. Obsidian and soul sand both have 100 points and they need 10. And basically, if you look up, here, it says secondary progress 1000. Okay, so basically what the rare earth extractor has to do is it has to reach 1000 points, and it can be any combination of blocks that go into it. So for example, you could do, a bit of obsidian, a bit of clay, a bit of netherrack, and once your points hit 1000, you'll create a rare earth dust. Okay, that's really all the rare earth extractor is used to make, is just rare earth dust. So for example, let me grab just a few pieces of obsidian here. This is the, this and soul sand, that's the best quality thing that you can run through this. And you'll notice that it starts running and this red bar fills up. Now it processes items at a fairly decent rate. And eventually you'll get yourself some rare earth dust. And if you recall, with that rare earth dust, there's a few things that we can do with it. We're going to take the rare earth dust, we're going to combine it with iron, we're going to get rare earth chunks. Okay, now this can be ran through the recycler. That is a 100% chance to get scrap metal. You can also run it through the compressor and get those dead magnets that we talked about. And really, that's all there is to the rare earth extractor. You're going to use it to make that rare earth dust, make yourself some scrap metal if you want to use the rare earth chunks for that. 100% chance, but they're not as common as getting iron or something like that. Or make magnets with it. Now magnets, just to give you an idea, magnets are used for making range pumps, also some diamond drill upgrades, but your primary use for those are going to be iridium neutron reflectors and plasma cores. Plasma cores, of course, being used for the plasma cables, as well as a couple other things like the quantum overclockers. So they're kind of late gamey, and we're going to get into how to actually make that plasma, because it's not as easy as just I want plasma. Okay, just because you get the magnets, that's the easy part. The magnets and the advanced alloy, that's the easy part. The plasma is the tough part. So we'll get into that in just a second. But this rare earth extractor only requires 32 EU. So one thing you can do to get yourself ready, so you have the magnets ready whenever it comes time to start that, is, of course, you could set up a cobble gen. Just feed this cobblestone. That's actually what I did in my IC2 server Let's Play series, was I had one of these set up producing magnets from the early game. Now granted, the server died before I could actually get to where I was going to use them, but that is an option. The rare earth extractor is cheap to run. It's also very, very cheap to build, so you might as well get that going early on and just get yourself some rare earth dust being made. Now next up we come to the mass fabricator. This is a high voltage machine, so we're going to set it up, we'll put it right here. And we'll give it a creative energy source. And basically the mass fab within this pack, it works on a system called amplification. So by default, I'm going to give you the numbers here. I know you guys may not remember, but there's a link to the wiki down below. The mass fab, in order to make one piece of UU matter, it requires 7 million EU. Okay? So it's not cheap, let's say. And you'll notice it can get no upgrades. There's no upgrades for the mass fab or for the rare earth extractor. Just a heads up on those. But to make that 7 million a lot easier, if you're familiar with the mass fab from, IC2 experimental, you may know that you can pump scrap or scrap boxes into the mass fab to give yourself kind of like a speed up period, right? Well, you can do that with the mass fab within IC2 Classic. There's 3 different things that you can feed into the mass fab. And basically what it's going to show you is it's going to show you some amplification points. So for example, if I put scrap into there, you'll notice we get a 5,000 amplifier. Okay? And scrap, and we'll go over the actual mechanics of amplification in just a moment. So scrap gives you 5,000 points of amplification. So next up we have scrap boxes. If you put one of these into there, you're going to get 45,000 amplification points. Okay, so that's like the mid tier doing scrap boxes. And then lastly, we talked about the scrap metal last episode. You can put scrap metal into the mass fab and it's going to give you 100,000 amplification points. So basically if you look at it, there's really no difference as far as amplification points between using scrap and using scrap boxes. But using that scrap metal, it's a big jump. So if you have some kind of mob farm or something that's producing, broken iron swords, broken gold swords and armor and all that stuff, that would be the best route to do, is producing that scrap metal. So for the actual mechanics of amplification, basically for each point of amplification that you have, okay, every time that this mass fab uses 1 EU, then it's going to consume as well 1 amplification point and provide you with an additional 5 EU. Okay, so if you keep this thing fed and amplified and all of that stuff, what's going to happen is you're going to run this mass fab 6 times faster than if you only fed it power. Okay, so amplification is definitely the way to go unless you want to spend 7 million EU per operation. So for example, let's throw some scrap metal in here and you'll notice progress starts blasting through and it's eating through the scrap metal at a fairly good rate. So you will need a lot of scrap metal production if you're going to run this off of scrap metal. But from it you get UU matter. So about a stack, I think I'd use up like 1 or 2 scrap metal, but about a stack of scrap metal, it's going to get you 5 UU. I think probably what was left I might have managed to get to 6, I don't know. But if you take a look at UU matter, this is the physical version of UU matter. You know how IC2 experimental has that liquid version? This is a solid, and basically what you do is you craft it into different recipes. Okay, so for example, if we take a look in here, you got diamonds, gunpowder, you've got iridium. This is the only way to get iridium ore is through UU matter. So right here it's 7 pieces of UU for 1 iridium. You can also make elytras with a lot of UU matter. You can make those. And also, just as a small heads up, just to let you guys know, if you want to power down the mass fab, you can hit it with redstone signal. If you notice, if you listen really carefully, you can hear what sounds like beep 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 beep. Almost, I don't know, almost like a futuristic keyboard or something like that going. But if you hit it with a redstone signal, you'll notice that it stops making that sound. Okay, so redstone, you can toggle this on and off using that if you want. Now, in addition, there is an option in the ini file where you can have the mass fab only run if it has amplification matter. On our server, that's actually turned on. So our amplifiers, or our mass fabs, even though it sounds like it's running right now, it will only run whenever it has amplification matter. So if you wanted to set that up, you can do it that way, or you can control it with redstone. Either works. Now next up we have the plasma fire. Okay, this is how you're going to make that plasma that we talked about earlier. So what you're going to do, this tooltip on the machine is actually wrong right now. I'll let Spiker know. He's actually going to fix it in the next update. It says the limit is 512. It's actually 2048. Okay, so 2048 per packet. And of course you can pump it as many packets as you want. Now this machine actually requires a massive amount of power per operation. So basically to create 1 cell of plasma, it's going to need 10,240,000 EU. Okay, so let's go ahead and set it down. You'll also notice that there's no upgrade slots. Basically your empty cells go over here, and your UU matter goes here. Okay, and it's going to start consuming that UU matter. Here in a minute, you'll see it'll get like a little pink line, and that'll steadily build up. And then once it has enough to fill an empty cell, like 1,000 millibuckets basically of plasma, it's going to pump it into a cell, and then we'll get that cell. So for each plasma cell, you're going to need that 10,240,000 EU. You're also going to need 10 UU matter, and this thing basically, if you want to run it at full speed, you're going to have to feed it 5 packets per tick of 2048. Okay, so because this thing actually consumes 10,240 EU per tick, so its limit is 2048, but it will consume a bit more, packet wise. But it takes, at that speed, if you're running 5 packets in there, it's going to take about 50 seconds per plasma cell. But you can see I just got a plasma cell, and there we go. That's pretty much how that thing runs. It's very, very expensive. I mean, the UU matter is pretty expensive, but the energy cost is fairly decent. Now, this plasma cell, basically this is used to make plasma cores. Okay? And those plasma cores, yeah, there's lots of fun stuff that you can make with them. Most of it we're going to get into later. It's upgrades and tools. We did talk about the plasma cables before. But one of the major things that you're going to make with this as far as getting into endgame is you're going to make that PESD, which we'll actually cover that in the tools section, but that's what you're going to use to make those PESUs and the IV transformers. So very, very expensive these two blocks are on power and resources. Now next up we have the machine buffer and the machine tank. First off, I'm going to show you both of these, and then I'll show you actually how you use them basically and everything. So first up, the machine buffer is item storage, and the primary use for the machine buffer and the machine tank is with upgrades. Okay, I'm not going to show you all the upgrades and how they work right now. We'll cover that next episode, but I will show you like a basic setup using the crafting upgrade, something that you can do with that. But anyways, you get a couple buttons here. You have upgrade tick and you have notify processing with upgrade tick, and this is true of both of these. I'm not going to go into those right this second. I will whenever we actually go to set this up. And then you have some upgrade slots on the side here. Okay, and you also got some power storage. These are LV based machines, so they're going to need 32 EU per tick. So they're going to need, LV power, 32 EU. They don't really consume all that much. It basically just depends on how much they're running and stuff like that. But of course, the machine buffer is going to store items, while the machine tank stores fluids. The machine tank can store 64,000 millibuckets. Okay, now one really interesting thing I want to point out about this tank that's very, very interesting is this tank is actually layered. Okay, so in theory, then granted I don't see you ever doing this, but in theory you could store 64,000 different fluids, 1 millibucket of 64,000 different fluids in there. Okay, now apparently after 32,000 it becomes a bit wonky in the way that it works, but honestly I can't see why you would ever need to store even 100 different types of fluids in a single tank, but that option is there. You can do that. And this has pretty much the same layout. You have your upgrades here, and then you have 2 buttons here, upgrade tick and notify processing with upgrade tick. Okay, so let me show you exactly how to set these, how you would actually use these. Now I'm mainly going to cover the machine buffer. The machine tank is pretty much the same thing. You can do processes with it like import upgrades, export upgrades, item routing and all of that stuff. Okay, actually change of plans. Instead of using the crafting upgrade, we're going to use the export upgrade. Okay, the crafting upgrade actually does not do the tick notification, which I'll show you what that's about. It took me a little while to get my head around this concept because I hadn't really used it all that much. But basically it'll keep your machines running in sync. Okay, so to give you an example here, let's say we have a recycler right here, and we have a machine buffer right here. Okay, now the recycler's fine really when it's running slow, but let me get a couple things here, and I'm going to kind of give you a sneak peek in the process. That's not what I meant to get. I'm going to give you like a small little sneak peek of some of the stuff that's going to be coming up in the upgrades video. Some of these are really, really cool. So really to kind of showcase this, we're going to have to do a little bit with upgrades, okay? So let's say, for example, let me open up this upgrade container. This is an awesome feature. And we're going to throw in a couple stacks of efficiency upgrades. And we're going to throw in a few, we'll throw like 16 quantum overclockers in there. Okay, this is top tier stuff, but anyways, we're going to throw that into the recycler. Okay, so our upgrades are in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take an export upgrade, and we are going to just right click this so it's facing to the south. Okay, south is the direction that we're currently facing. Yes. And like I said, I'll cover more about upgrades next episode. We're going to put that in there. And for right now, we're going to have upgrade tick off and notify processing with upgrade tick, okay? So if I put cobblestone in there, you'll notice it does nothing. It will not leave the machine buffer. Because basically the machine buffer, if you don't have upgrade tick on, the machine buffer is not going to update and it's not going to send any items over. However, okay, I've got my cobblestone in there. And let me take one piece of cobblestone and put it into this recycler. Pow. You'll notice that it pulls the cobblestone. Because anytime that a machine runs that's adjacent to a machine buffer, it's going to basically start a process where it says, okay, now machine buffer, you update and run your upgrades here. Okay, now crafting, like I said, crafting upgrades do not support that feature. Also like round robin, it's mainly for imports and exports is the main thing. And the reason being is because if you had crafting upgrades and stuff like that, it would actually be a bit laggy trying to craft those items. You know, for example, how fast some of these machines get to running, it would create a bit of a lag source. So that's what the machine buffer does when upgrade tick is turned off. However, if I turn upgrade tick on, and I throw a piece of cobblestone in there, you'll notice it pumps it out on its own, okay? So what upgrade tick is doing is it is telling it, every tick, you can send an item. So for example, if I threw 31 cobblestone in there, you'll notice it all gets pumped out into that. Now, what we can do then is turn on notify processing with upgrade tick. Okay, now basically what's going to happen, I'll keep that off for just a second. And let me grab just a few more stacks of this cobblestone. I'll tell you what, we're just going to put a stack of cobblegen upgrades in there instead. Alright, so that's producing cobblestone. And you'll notice without notify processing with upgrade tick, you'll notice this actually kind of drops down to about 40-ish cobblestone before it gets refilled, right? So it's not actually keeping up with the machine. However, if I turn on notify processing with upgrade tick, pow. Oh, well, there we go, pow. It's sitting still, okay? Because basically what's happening is this is updating every time this recycler processes something. You know, it's updating and it's saying, okay, send me more cobble. Okay, send me more cobble. Send me more cobble. And it's keeping this field. Okay? So if I turn that back off, you'll notice that this number starts to fluctuate. If I turn this completely off, you'll notice that this stays filled, but now it's just dumping constant. And it's just dumping everything it can. And you'll also notice that since this upgrade tick is turned off, other upgrades that can't read the notifications from the recycler are not running. So right now, cobblegen upgrade, it cannot read updates from the recycler. So now we've ran out of cobblestone. Okay? So then if we wanted to get more cobblestone, upgrade tick, and now we're making cobblestone, and we'll say notify processing. Okay. So basically that's one example of how you can use that. Okay, export upgrades can read that notification, also input can. And this is true also with the machine tank. So, you know, if you want to do something with that, it works the exact same way as the machine buffer. Except, of course, with fluids instead of items. It cannot accept any items. If you look in here, there's no item slots. Now, next up, we have the Magnetizer. And basically the way that this block works, okay, you'll notice it's a energy acceptor 32 EU. Okay. So basically, if we put down the Magnetizer, you'll notice there's no GUI for this. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to run iron fences up. And we'll run them up along the side of the building here. And now what this is going to do, if this has power, and it uses just a minute amount of power, it's about 1 EU per block charge. But if we were to walk up to this, you'll notice that it shoots me up those poles. Okay? That is like, if I go into Game Mode S, and I go up to this, wow, that's just what it does. Okay? Basically like a super elevator system. And it can magnetize any iron fences above or below it up to 20 blocks, okay? And if you're like falling, you can actually hook onto it, catch onto it. It's actually a lot of fun to play with, as you can tell. I'm having too much fun, just like rubber boats, right? But anyways, it is a little bit dangerous. But the way that works, let me go back to Game Mode C here, is that if you have compatible metal boots, it will magnetize you to that iron fence and shoot you up. Okay. Now, as of right now, according to the wiki, known compatible metal boots are the metal boots from Railcraft, IC2c, Minecraft, Blood Magic, Deep Resonance, and Random Things. Okay, now bear in mind that it has to be metal boots. So for example, the hazmat boots, the rubber boots, will not work for it. Also, like leather boots won't work. It has to be some kind of metallic based boots. Now in addition, one other feature of the Magnetizer is you can actually apply an overclocker to this. And what's going to happen is it's going to consume the overclocker, and it's actually going to increase the power tier of this from 32 to 128. So now this is a tier 2 machine. It also increases the energy storage of it, and in addition it allows it to magnetize an infinite number of blocks up or down. Still goes down as well, so you can actually put iron fences below it as well if you wanted to. But instead of having the 20 block limit, we can now put iron fences way up. Now on the downside, it does increase power consumption by 10 times the original amount. Okay, I don't even know if we have enough power to run this, but we're going to find out. So if I come up to this, it shoots me up, and then it fires me way up here. It's almost like a fair ride or something, right? So, anyways, that's how the Magnetizer works. It's actually a bit of fun, and it's really fast vertical travel. Now, next up, let's quickly talk about pumps, ranged pumps, overclocked pumps, the miner, and the ore probe. Okay, so first up, the ore probe. If we were to set this down somewhere, just like that, and so if I put a high OVD scanner into this, you'll see that the percentage starts rising right here. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to scan through the entire terrain. And we're going to go over scanners right after this. So once it hits 100%, you can see that there's 12 silver ore, 6 gold ore, and 4 redstone ore. Okay, so basically what it's done is it's done a mass scan from world bottom to player height, and has done a range of 6 blocks around us. So for example, if I pull the OVD scanner out, the ore probe is basically like a block version of the scanner. Okay, so if I pull the OVD scanner out and I right click it, you can see that the ore density in this area is 0. So there's no ores around me. Now bear in mind that this is only scanning, it's like 6 blocks. But let's say we come over here. Actually, I'll tell you what, the OVD scanner is probably not the best one to use. Let's go with a, as you can see, there's a ton of scanners over here, and I'll go over the different little stats on here and everything. The low one, yeah, that's what we want to use. So you can see ore density in this area is 1267. If we fly over to here, that's 1258. And basically, the more density that there is, the more of the specific ores that you're looking for are in that area. Now, the different scanners, there's all different kinds. Like I said, I'm not going to cover all of them. You can check the tooltips to see all the details for those. But, for example, the low OVD scanner has a scanner range of 6 blocks. So that's gonna, that's gonna scan in 6 blocks in each direction from like the center point. Okay. And if you look right here, the OVD scanners basically have different tiers. They have like low, medium, high. They're basically whitelisted for specific targets. So you can see right here, scanner targets. We've got coal ore, we've got apatite, sulfur, saltpeter, all the railcraft ore, iron and gold and all that, as well as nickel, firestone. All that stuff is in the low OVD scanner. Now, if you look at the high OVD scanner, you've got gold, redstone, silver. And so basically what you can do is you can use these scanners to find ore density for the specific types of ores that you're looking for. Now, the ore probe is nice because if you recall, it actually showed us a specific list. It said, here's this much silver, this much copper, and it tells you exactly how many of each thing that you're looking for. Now let's instead put in the OD scanner. Okay, this just does a mass scan. You can see that it found 13 iron ore, 10 tin ore, we've got 10 copper, 6 more copper. That's what is that, Railcraft's version or Forestry's version or something like that. We got coal, we've got some diamond, uranium, and that's it. Now this one's range is only 2, so it's going to scan a very small area, but bear in mind that it's scanning all the way down, to world, the bedrock and everything. So just depends on what kind of scanner. There's all different kinds, but whatever purpose that you're looking for, whatever ores that you're looking for, there's different scanners to fit those needs. Now next up, let's talk about the miner. Okay, so the miner, if we were to set this up, let's put it over here first. Okay, so the miner is going to face down, and you can see this is the bottom of it. And we're going to give this power. This is an LV machine, and you'll notice that it does not have upgrade slots. So I'm going to give it power on the side. Okay, now you first have to supply it with a mining tool. Now there's a couple different tools that you can use. First up is the diamond drill from IC2 Classic. And then you also have the mining laser. And we're going to get more into both of these tools next episode. But I'm going to use them right now to show you how this works. And then you're also going to want to get yourself some mining pipes. And then we're also going to want something to store our material. So in this case, we're just going to put a diamond chest on top of this. Okay, so now let's give this some mining pipes. They go here. And then we're going to give it the diamond drill. And you'll notice this starts digging down. The mining pipes, the bottom one is really, really thick like that. Whereas these top ones are a bit more thin, right? Now if you just put the mining drill in there and the mining pipes, it's just going to start digging straight down. Okay, now let's pull these out for just a moment. And instead, let's put a scanner in here. Okay, so let's get, I'll tell you what, we're going to get a quarry scanner. Quarry has a scanner range of 12 blocks, and it digs up everything. So we're just going to put that right in here, and then we're going to put our mining pipes in here. And now you'll notice, I mean, we're digging up cobblestone, we're digging up dirt, and it's pretty much grabbing everything. Now, I will say the mining drill is not very fast. It's nice because the drill can actually have enchantments, and those enchantments affect the miner. But if you're looking for a faster alternative, especially before your diamond drill has a lot of nice things on it, you can use the mining laser. So we'll put that into there. And now, actually, if we look in the chest, you can see now we're getting somewhere. Now it's digging through a lot of stuff. Okay? And basically what's going to happen, since we have the quarry scanner in there, the scanner dictates the range. Because as you saw before, it was just digging straight down. It wasn't actually digging out at all. So what's going to happen is it's going to dig up a 25 by 25, and it's going to be full quarried. So everything is just going to get dug up, all the cobblestone, all the dirt, everything. So if we pop down here, yeah, you can see it's digging out this huge chunk of area here. And that's basically how the miner works. Different scanners are going to give you different control over it and whatnot. Let me go ahead and pull that out for just a moment. And whenever you pull out your mining tool, by the way, all your mining pipes come back up and they go into your chest. Okay, so it does dig all of those up. And we'll grab our quarry scanner, and let's come over here instead, where we have a bunch of water. And so let's say we want to pump up fluids too. We want to mine materials, and we want to pump up the fluids that it encounters. So what we can do is we can actually attach a pump just right to the side of this miner and give that pump just a little bit of power, and you'll notice that it starts pulling up water from down there. Now it's not going to break the source blocks. It's not fast enough to actually kill the source blocks of water. Now if it was lava or something, it would do that. But this will allow it to pump up fluids. And in addition to pumping up the water, of course, you can then pump the water from the pump into a tank or a drum or something to that effect. You can also put, in this slot right here, you can put sails into this, and it will create water sails, and then you can pump those out. You can also pump the water into a compressor and make snowballs with it. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different options that you can do right from the pump and miner combo. Now, in addition, there's a couple other pumps. This one isn't the fastest in the world, you know, just the standard pump. But we also have the ranged pump and the overclocked pump. Okay, so for example, if I put the overclocked pump right here and we gave it just a little bit of power, you'll notice this thing pumps up water a lot faster. So you'll notice we're going to start getting water cells right here at a fairly decent rate. Okay, now one thing to note about the standard pump and the overclocked pump is they only pump up liquids directly beneath them. So none of these other water source blocks are going to be affected by the overclocked pump. And also the standard pump is LV, whereas the overclocked and the ranged pump are both MV pumps. Okay, now next up we have the ranged pump. Now the ranged pump would be especially useful for like pumping up lava or something like that. But what we can do is we can use the filtered fluid scanner, And let's get ourselves a water sail and just hold our side inventory key and right click. We can open up this inventory here and we're going to put water into this. We're going to say you can pump up water. Okay. And we're going to throw this into the range pump. And then in addition, you're going to want to give it some mining pipes. And we're going to want to give it somewhere to store this liquid. So you'll notice that now it's pumping up water and it will pump outwards. And you'll see that the water is going into this fluid tank. Now this scanner has a range of 20 blocks, this filtered fluid scanner. So they're pretty straightforward. Those scanners really come in handy when messing with those, because you can dictate how big of an area and even whitelist what can be selected. There's also some scanners that have a whitelist that you can manually set. Okay, so if you're not happy with the way the OVD scanners whitelists are set up, maybe you want stuff that maybe you want coal and diamonds and and iron and just a mix of things, then of course you can do the custom whitelist scanners. So there's a lot of options in there. Like I said, I'm not going to go over all of those. There's a ton of them, and they all have different tooltips, so you can read and you can see right there what they do and what they scan for. Okay, I tell you what, we're actually going to end this first part because I was looking at the footage, and we've still got a bit to cover, and there's really actually a lot to cover to go into detail with all this stuff, to make sure if you guys have questions and stuff, do my best to answer those for you and cover all this stuff in detail, because there's a ton of new stuff with an IC2 Classic and a ton of things that you guys may not be familiar with. So anyways, next episode we'll talk about teleporters, we'll talk about terraformers, we'll talk about luminators, just all sorts of stuff. And I think there's actually some really cool stuff coming up in next episode. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already, to stay up to date with when new videos come out. And anyways, I hope you guys found this video helpful. I hope to see you guys next time. Until then, as always, do take care, stay safe, and I will see you guys then.